Okay, so today we're going to be talking about how Canadian business owners with high-level agency owners can validate their market. What do I mean by that? Well, I've been in business for over 35 years, and there have been many business opportunities that I've chased without validating whether or not there was an opportunity there in the first place. And I think HighLevel represents the same sort of situation. There is a global opportunity for HighLevel, and I'm specifically speaking to Canadian business owners right now who are looking at, maybe you've just discovered HighLevel. I know I just discovered HighLevel a year ago. If you've ever worked with Salesforce or HubSpot, you're going to see this as a golden opportunity as a marketing manager, as a sales manager, to be able to offer your clients a bundled service package that incorporates everything from email services to billing to website development to automations, AI tools, you name it, it's here. And it's only going to be getting better. But before you kind of go to market with an idea, one of the really great things about HighLevel is they give you this 30-day free subscription to get your feet wet. And I'm going to tell you a story about how I got started in HighLevel and how I continue to use HighLevel today. So before, and I'll have a link in the description here if you want to join our community of Canadian high-level agency owners for a free 30-day trial of their software, and then you become part of our community. But here's the thing. When I started with HighLevel, I saw it as such a great opportunity for small business, but I also saw problems with it. The first thing is that for a small business owner, there are very few small business owners who know how to, what a CRM is, what customer relationship management software is. Very, very few of them know how to build automations. When it comes to email services, marketing services, web development, it gets insane real quickly. So you have to ask yourself, how are you going to help your customers? Are you just going to be the agency that gets 1,000 nail salons or plumbers or home service businesses to buy this as an add-on, hope that your online onboarding videos do their trick, get people happy, and they're never going to have a challenge again? I've talked to the business development managers at HighLevel, and I keep picking their brains and asking the same question. Who is this really working for? Like, who's really, really having success? And sort of all roads sort of lead back to Rome. And when I say that, there's certain businesses that do really well, that have very low turnover. Very low churn is another word for that. But they tend to offer more of a high ticketed price as well. And they're offering a done with you service, or a done for you service, rather than a turnkey, here's a quick solution. Because HighLevel changes so quickly, you're going to find that your customers, if you're relying on the bottleneck of you doing the onboarding and moving that onto an online video, you're going to have to be updating those videos all the time because the software changes on a daily basis. I think last year they said that there were over almost 400 product updates. So that's more than one a day. So all these videos that people are creating are almost obsolete after they make them in many cases. So that's going to be a bit of a challenge if that's your model for developing an agency within HighLevel. But I'm going to tell you my story. So when I saw this opportunity with HighLevel, the first thing I did was I said, okay, I live in an area where there is a very niche market. For those of you who don't know me or haven't seen my background, I work currently with wineries in the Niagara region in Ontario, Canada. I can tell you that I was the first company to go around and talk to these wineries. I know them all now. I know how to qualify which wineries can make this software work and which ones can't. I've done that through many conversations. But my first conversation before I even signed up for HighLevel was to take one of my friends who worked in the industry for a mid-tier winery. When I say mid-tier, they weren't the biggest, they weren't the smallest, they were in the middle. I took him for coffee and I said, hey Al, I've got this opportunity and all this experience, but I'm not quite sure how to make this work inside the winery industry. Can you tell me about the industry and maybe some of the problems you guys are facing? And maybe I can see a solution here where I can sell my services, sell this product as a fractional sales or marketing manager. So we had a coffee. He identified 2 or 3 problems that he felt most wineries have here in Niagara. I then went out and I talked to 10 different wineries. And I said, is this a problem that you're experiencing? I took Al, everybody knows each other in the industry. I took Al out for coffee and he said, this seems to be an issue. Is this an issue with your winery? And is this something that we might be able to help with? That landed me, those conversations landed me my first 10 clients in HighLevel as an agency owner. And if you know how much I charge, that's a good start to a business. I validated that there is indeed a market there. However, I didn't qualify everybody equally. So what I mean by that is, what is the likelihood that this client is going to remain a client? What is the likelihood that all of this disruption, all of this AI disruption might represent a challenge inside of that business, even though they want to take advantage of all these new tools? So I would tell you, if you're a Canadian agency looking to become a Canadian high-level agency, the way that you qualify your prospects and qualify the market potential is to look at the infrastructure that's in place. If the companies that you're working with have more than 10 employees and have legacy phone systems that may have cost the owner tens of thousands of dollars to put in place, and they have extensions, well, the AI tools don't do a very good job of dialing extensions. As a matter of fact, they don't. So there's a workaround that has to happen, and your clients have to be willing to be a part of that workaround. So the workaround in that scenario is having the AI agent answer the first line and then say, oh, if you're looking for Tim at extension 23, I'm going to transfer you now to Tim. And when you hear the voice recorded message, just dial 212 for Tim and bypass that message. That's one workaround. But these tools were really meant to work with current communication tools like cell phones. The easiest workaround is to say, hey, if I want to speak to Tim, here's Tim's cell phone, and it rings Tim's cell phone immediately. And if Tim's on the phone, then his cell phone takes a message. So when you're qualifying and validating the market, look at the market you want to serve. Ask yourself, what are the roadblocks that are going to happen? If you're coming into a business, like a service-oriented business, like a plumbing or an HVAC company, and they do have receptionists, and they are a family-type business, you are going to make the receptionist feel like their job is in danger. That's going to be a huge blocker. I'm not saying it's impossible. We do have an HVAC client that we work with, and everybody understands their role, and the voice AI picks up when the receptionist isn't working. So she's not threatened, or when she's on the phone. So she's not threatened. She sees it as a tool to help the business, and that helps the business owner. If the business currently has a website that might have an iframe setup, and the iframe setup might mean that when you put on the chat widget, they may have to do some programming on the back end, and it's not complicated, but they may have to do some programming so that when the chat window explodes and you see the full chat window, sometimes that covers other action buttons on the client's website. So what you have to do there is you have to do a little bit of programming to make sure that that space that's occupied, that real estate that's occupied on the website, when the chat isn't being used, isn't an invisible overlay on top of the website, enabling or not making it possible for people to click through onto action buttons. So that's something else you have to think about and consider as you're talking about the AI chat widget. So those are just two things that you need to qualify with the client to see what kind of system they have set up. Are they willing to make those changes? Because if the client's not willing to adopt the AI voice, if they're not willing to adopt the AI chat, if they're really nervous about moving from Klaviyo or MailChimp onto Mailgun, even though the savings might be dramatic, sometimes in bigger companies, when this is a dedicated person, they get a little nervous that their job might be in jeopardy if they make a mistake, if this technology doesn't work. So I think, the longer HighLevel is around for, the more comfortable people are going to get with it. But I can tell you that's where the pushback is going to come from. It's not that the AI tools are going to replace everybody, but it's understanding where do we fit in, what is the existing technology, and you have to ask yourself, where can I find some quick wins for your clients? So when I go out and I validate my market, I will share with you, I have, being in Ontario, one of my son's passions and one of my passions is going up into Northern Ontario, and we've done some fly-in fishing trips together. And there are literally hundreds of fly-in fishing camps in Northern Ontario. And when you see in Instagram posts or on Facebook posts, all these younger influencers who are trying to be high-level agencies or they're marketing themselves as a AI agency, but it's really high level in the background and you never really see that. I'm just upfront about what I do because that's how I do business. These people are always hammering the home services businesses, and yes, there's still potential out there, but there's a lot of churn with that business too, unless you really understand how to deal with that client. And I think that comes from years of experience as a sales and marketing person. How do you build a relationship with another 50 to 60-year-old person who has 30 years experience in this industry, and they need to hand over the business to their kid maybe, and what are all those challenges they're going to face? You need to be able to build trust. And this online quick churn thing where you're doing the onboarding with videos, that doesn't build trust. That builds anxiety and high churn rates. So part of qualifying your market, part of doing that initial investigating, is this really a market? What I would do is I would pick a market. I would send emails out. I would pick up the phone and call. When it turns out the fishing market, I got 0 responses back. I ran 200 fishing camps through an email qualification or an email validation campaign. I got 1 response back saying, we're all good. I answer the phone all the time. I didn't get upset by that. I just went, there's a niche market that it is either A, not ready, or they don't need it. I think that they all do need it, because if I look at their websites, I can tell you from the tools that we use inside of HighLevel, I can tell you right now that the majority of them do not have any AI tools enabled on their business. So this is an opportunity, and they'll find that businesses with services, systems built in, sales systems built in are much easier to have an exit strategy one day when they want to sell that business and move on. So it just makes it easier for the next owner who takes over that business to run it efficiently. So these are conversations. They're not dead in the water, but I'm not going to spend all of my time working on an industry that doesn't even want to talk to me about what we have to offer. So I validated the fishing market, and right now it's not an opportunity. I validated the home services market, and at least here in Niagara or here in Ontario, from over 200 HVAC companies that I've talked to, the majority of them have more work than they have people to do the work. So for that reason alone, they're really not interested. So am I going to keep hammering that market? Absolutely not. But I've discovered 2 or 3 other markets that are less sexy. That was a tip that was passed along to me years ago by many successful business friends that I have. They said the less sexy, the less in your face, the more anonymous the business might be to the average person, the less other competitors think about it. So I've got a couple of business areas right now that I'm actually exploring to build into our client portfolio, but I'm not going all in like I would if I was super energetic and just wanted to dive in with both feet. I'm validating the market. I'm setting up calls, just like I did with Al in the wine industry. I'm setting up calls. I'm having conversations. I'm asking what pain points they have, what technology they have. Is this an opportunity? But I'm calling people to start, people who I know inside the industry. We have an established relationship. So if you know anybody inside of an industry that you think may not be overserved yet, call them. Take them, buy them a coffee. Just say, I'd love to pick your brains. I'm trying to validate, is there an opportunity here? Would really appreciate your insight. I really respect what you do. You've had a successful business. So take that tone, take that insight, validate whether or not there's a market there. When you realize, hey, yeah, there's an opportunity here, call and set up your first meeting. Once you've called and set up your first meeting, have a conversation with somebody. If they are keen to get started with you, say, hey, fantastic, let me take your credit card information, or take their company information, say, I'm going to send you an invoice. And this is the clunky part. I mean, honestly, when I was offering this as a SaaS service, I would literally put my laptop in front of my client and say, here, click the sign up button. That's how you sign up. We need to have a valid credit card in the system. That's how software works. You've got 30 days for free. If you don't like this, you can always cancel the subscription and you get to keep all the contacts we collected for you. So win-win for everybody. That's how I would approach it. If you're not using the SaaS tool, which is what I don't do now, simply what I say to my clients is, hey, look, I'm going to send you an invoice. That invoice will be for us setting up the subscription. And it's going to give you 30 days inside the system. It's going to be a 30-day free invoice, but you need to have a credit card inside the system for the system to unlock and you be able to use it. So you're not physically taking the credit card from them. They are actually going to the invoice that Stripe creates for you. It gets sent to them on a secure website. They'll put their credit card information. That's for their monthly subscription for your services. And then inside of HighLevel, they're going to be prompted in the billing section to put their credit card in again, and that's going to handle their wallet charges. So again, before you go through all those steps and waste 2 or 3 weeks trying to build your products out in Stripe, go and validate there's an opportunity here first. Decide what you're going to charge on a monthly basis. Ask if that fee is reasonable. Would you pay that if I solve this problem? The one thing that I like to do for all of my clients is in the first 30 days, get them a quick win and define what that win is going to be. And it can be a multiple of different things because there's a multiple of different services listed inside of HighLevel. So if you want to have a conversation around that, drop me a chat and I'll tell you different ways you can validate inside of HighLevel and get quick wins inside of HighLevel with your clients. I think for me, if I can demonstrate to my clients return on investment every month, my analogy is always, as a business owner, if I gave you $1 every month and you gave me $2 back, that's a good deal. I'll keep doing that every day of the week. So it doesn't have to be bringing them in, an ROI of 400%. It can be, 200%. And that's like, I give you $1, you give me $2 back. Happy days. Let's keep rinse and repeating that one all day long. So again, that's the end of sort of my validation conversation. If you want to continue the conversation, do so in the comments below. And again, if you're new to HighLevel, you don't have your agency set up yet, you can join our Canadian community of agencies by using the link in the description below. You'll become one of my sub accounts or one of my affiliates, if you will. And in doing so, you become part of our community, and we share best practices as Canadian agencies with each other, so that all ships rise with the tide. But that link will be in the description below. Again, thank you for joining us today. Hope you're enjoying this series of videos. And then the next part I'm going to be talking about is actually a sales and helping you build your sales once you've validated your market, and how to handle a sales call. So hopefully that one will be of interest as well. We'll see you in the next video. What do you think, Ralph? Was that a good one? Oh, was it super boring? I don't know. I think it was a good video. What do you think? You don't look impressed.